Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I have a project that came in from Mark. Mark has a Mitchell 300 with a problem that we see every now and then, and I hope to solve it for those of you that are watching that may have the same problem. Mark has an axle shaft where the tips or the tines that hold the spool on have broken off. And so today's subject for the video is how to replace that axle shaft. Now, Mark asked me to tune up the whole reel, but I'm just going to do a short video on this one. I do have a video out there on how to rebuild the 300 in its entirety, and if you're interested in that, please search my channel for that. But right now, the most critical part you need in replacing the axle shaft is a replacement axle shaft. Now, these are generally still available. They made millions of these reels. A lot of folks have taken broken reels apart and sell the parts on eBay and the like. So if you have a need for an axle shaft, search there. Generally you can find them relatively inexpensive. There are two types of shafts. One has a 2-prong and the other has a 4-prong. Doesn't matter. Either one of those is fine in terms of the reel. It's just as they were made in different sections. Okay, so we're going to start by taking off the side plate. That's going to give us access to that axle shaft. And while we do that, I'm going to start to thank our first responders and local hometown heroes, everybody involved in keeping us safe during the pandemic. You know who you are, we know who you are, and your efforts truly are appreciated, whether you're on the hospitals and medical, and if you're in the civil service like police and EMT and fire, or whether you're in the supply chain, including vaccine distribution, food, and just public safety. We really do appreciate you out there every day trying to keep us as close to normal as we can as we go through this pandemic. So thank you. We're going to take those 3 screws out of the side plate. I've taken the handle off, and you don't even need to take the handle off for the exercise, but I'm going to rebuild the reel, so we will get back into that after I show you the axle shaft and how to go solve for that. Okay, 3 screws off. Speaking of off, I like to put the anti-reverse in the off position. In this case it's still engaged, but that's okay. When you go to remove the main gear and the other pieces of the gears, that will come into play. So I'm just going to switch it right now. You can see the anti-reverse back here, and actually if I just take the one gear off, you'll see how this intersects with that. That is your anti-reverse. Okay, the axle is actually held in by a carrier. This is the carrier, this black piece here, and there's also I guess it's called an oscillating or an idler gear. You'll notice on the back that we have 3 tips on there, or tines. That's going to become important when we go to reinstall. This has an offset oscillation. I'm not exactly sure what they call it, but it does not move just up and down. It moves up and down in a pattern, and it's important on those 3 pieces there to get that pattern right. Next up, then, you want to remove this carrier. That's what's holding the axle shaft in. And there's a pin on the bottom here. You'll notice the pin, and that's going to seat into the axle shaft itself. Now I'm going to take a moment here, just kind of clean up the carrier. Now when you go to rebuild the reel, don't just stop with replacing an axle shaft. You're going to want to take the reel apart completely. So there's a channel behind here. You can see the axle shaft in it now, and you'll see how it goes up and down, sliding in that channel. That channel tends to fill with old grease. So you want to remove this channel here, get underneath and clean that whole section out if you're replacing the axle shaft. There's no sense not doing that. To remove this channel, there's 2 screws that sit into the side plate. They're actually what you're looking at here on the back side of your reel. Those are the screws. They tend to be temperamental, but they tend to get out. They have a hex design on them, so you can use a small nut driver, or you can also use a screwdriver. If you find that it's difficult at all, I'm going to do this for later, just hit it with some penetrating oil, let it sit, and then when you come back to it, generally those things will work themselves out. Okay, but we're just talking about a quick a quick fix on that axle shaft, and we're assuming that you've kept your reel in good condition, and that for some reason the last time you went to replace the spool, all of a sudden those tines snapped off and you were unable to seat your spool. So you've taken that slide out that holds it. All you have to do then is just pull up on the axle shaft. Now you can see why I've said go ahead and make sure to take that other carrier off and clean up all the grease, because this is just loaded in the back here with old grease, and that slows down performance. All right, if you have your new shaft, then the first thing you want to do is you want to put a little light grease on there, right? Because now again, we're just going to assume that the internal channel of this has already been cleaned. It will be later. Just put a coat of grease on, slide it right back down through until you can find the hole that comes through on that slide. Next up then, you're going to grease this. Again, I'm going to go back and do the whole reel, but you're going to grease the underside of that, which needs to slide. Locate the hole and get the stud from that slide into the axle shaft. So now if I pull the axle shaft up and down, you'll see the slide is coming up and down as well. Well, what's moving it up and down is this gear. So this gear has got 3 pieces on the back. Invariably I get it wrong, but set it up and then center the 3 on the back to the bottom so that it sits like this. You'll be able to feel it. And then you need to test to make sure that you've got it operating properly. So give it a turn. It needs to go all the way up top and all the way to the bottom, as you can see here, without catching. You'll know you're wrong if, let's just kind of make it different. You'll know you're wrong if you can only turn it a portion of the way. You'll see it here. That's only turning, and it'll appear that your reel is stuck. That's because you don't have these 3 studs on the back line properly. So I drop it down. I take the 3 and point them to the bottom, and then I test to make sure that I have the full range of motion of that slider. You'll notice that the replacement axle shaft is going up and down, and it's doing it nice and easily. So that means that the replacement I got wasn't bent, because that's a problem with these, they do bend. Okay, once you do that, then it's kind of straightforward in terms of the reassembly. Again, I'm going to take all this off and clean it, but to reassemble, then you want to make sure that all of your pieces are on. Got that backwards. That they're spinning, that they've all been greased. We're going to just, again, we're going to play along with this, that it's been greased. Just line it up. Reset your screws. I'm just going to take a moment here while we do. If you're interested in this type of a repair show, or if you like to learn about fishing reels and mechanics and how they're made and how to service them, then I would ask you to subscribe to my channel. I cover a variety of reels, everything from old reels to the latest reels to kind of everything in between here. And I show how to take them apart, how to clean them, check for defects and service them and get them fishing again. And if you're interested in that kind of thing, I ask you to subscribe. That'll help me and it'll help you. If you hit the notifications button, you'll see all of the videos that I post, and you'll be able to determine which ones you want to watch. I encourage you to watch them all, but of course there's a whole bunch of different interests, and I don't expect you to want to watch every one. So subscribe and hit those notifications. If you have a question on this reel or any reel in particular, then I would ask you to leave that in the comments section below, and I will try and get back to you with an answer. And then finally, if you have a reel that needs to be repaired, well, I do that too, and I would be happy to repair your reel if you're not up for it. Just leave me a message on the email on the business card that follows, and I will provide you with that repair information. Okay, here we go. We want to make sure that that axle shaft is going up and down. It is. And of course, those tines now will hold the spool when we go for that. So that's how you replace an axle shaft in a Mitchell 300. I hope you've enjoyed that. I ask you to stay well, stay healthy, be careful during the pandemic, make sure that we're doing our social distancing and masking up and doing all those other things that are being asked of us. And stay watching, stay fishing, and be well. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.